Hey there, BookTube. Noah. Everyone who reads it must converse is the channel. Today, I am embarking on a showdown. A showdown of two amazing uh, beast post-apocalyptic supernatural horror novels. One, you'll know, one is very much more popular than the other, but here we go. We have Stephen King's The Stand. This is my unabridged hardcover. I've had this forever. The Tale of the Tape. This is clocking in at 1,150 pages. This is in the in one corner, and then in the other corner we have Swan Song by Robert R. McCammon. This is a very awesome, horrifying, post-apocalyptic novel. The Tale of the Tape for Swan Song, 956 pages. So we have a difference of about 200 pages in the unabridged The Stand. We'll see which one packs a bigger punch, right? So, first off, I'm going to touch on plot, and then we're going to touch on characters. Arguably, plot and characters are the most driving things behind fiction narratives like this. Plot, then characters, and then we'll go to some details, and I'll give my take on it. So first up, The Stand. What's The Stand about? For anybody that's not familiar, the plot. First, we meet a lot of characters, and it is delivered in a way of one chapter, you meet a character or two in a certain setting, certain part of America, and the next chapter, a different character or a group of characters in a different part of America. Third chapter, another group of characters, and we'll go like that. And then once all the characters are pretty much a large number of the characters are introduced, then we'll revisit some of them and see their goings on, leading up to a virus, a militarized virus being accidentally unleashed from a military complex, a military research facility, and unleashed on the population of the United States and vicariously, the entire world. This virus is militarized to be 95% effective at dealing death. And so the population goes down to 5% of what, how many is on the earth right now? 8 billion people or something? After that, we have an aftermath where there's pretty much just destruction and death everywhere, as far as the cities. There's just dead people everywhere, and seemingly very, very, very few people are safe from this virus. But there are groups, and there are people that we've met already, and we've watched them kind of going through this, and they start having dreams. The devil, an evil entity, arrives on the scene, and that is the Man in Black, Randall Flagg. That is Stephen King's, bad guy in a lot of his works. And Randall Flagg shows up on the scene, and he is right there in his element. Death is his thing, right? The characters, the plot goes like this. They start having dreams, and people that are predisposed to virtue and are inherently good in their heart, they start having dreams of a female character named Mother Abigail, who lives in Nebraska, I want to say. Either Kansas or Nebraska. Or if they have a predisposition towards vice and selfishness and evil, they start seeing Randall Flagg and start moving towards a meeting up in Las Vegas, Nevada. That is how it goes for plot on the stand, just loosely, and we come up to what seems to be a showdown, right? So, Swan Song now. As far as plot, Swan Song, you meet the characters, and it is very much the same as how you meet characters in the stand. We have a chapter where we meet a character and a group of characters and see what they're doing, and then the next chapter will be a different character or a group of characters, and then we will go through 3, 4 chapters, 5 maybe, of different characters and their groups and what they're doing, and then we will revisit and we'll watch them go through and up until very quickly in the book, right after the first part of meeting all the characters and seeing who they are. First off, I want to say a major difference is in this book that we meet the president and we're in the war room, because in this book 95% of the human population is wiped out quick off the rip, but it's not a virus. It is a nuclear holocaust. All the nuclear warheads of countries get set off, and the entire world is brought down by an extinction level event, but it is nuclear war that happens. After that, we have the aftermath, which is a lot of death and destruction, but more destruction than in the stand, because major cities are all blown to bits, right? And there is horrific destruction everywhere. And then the small groups, the small amount of people that there are, they have to get through the nuclear winter. There's just clouds of ash and dust and everything kicked up from these explosions going off, and there is a winter, an unnatural winter that kind of blankets, takes place in the United States as well. The devil shows up, an evil entity, a straight up Satan figure shows up on the earth at this point in Swan Song, just very much like the stand. And this entity is a completely insane, evil thing. Very much like in the stand, these entities, the evil entity, and a young girl named Swan begin kind of amassing a group around them. And it is in the Midwest as well. Maybe Kansas or Nebraska, somewhere like that. So, as you can see, the plots are very, very similar. Very, very similar. Characters now. In characters, we're going to see a lot of differences. And I think there's more differences to these books than there are similarities. But plot is really where similarities, broad strokes of plot, there are similarities. So, characters. I'm going to give you the characters in the stand quick, and then we'll make some extrapolations from it. We have Stu. He's a factory worker. We have Frances Goldsmith. She's a college student. We have Nick Andros, a deaf-mute drifter. We have Larry Underwood, a musician. Rita Blakemore, a character called the Trash Can Man, who is actually kind of a mental patient, and he is a schizophrenic, and he is also a pyromaniac. We have, of course, the Man in Black, and we have Mother Abigail. So, from the characters in Stephen King, we can just say right off the rip that we're talking about normal people. We're talking about everyday, middle class, most of them, and because to survive the virus is nothing but pure chance and luck. It is based on the genetics of the person, and in no rhyme or reason is one person more susceptible to that virus than another. It's just purely based on luck of the draw. Just very few are going to survive. So Swan Song, the characters in Swan Song, we have Josh Hutchins. He's a former professional wrestler. He is a beast. We have Colonel J. Macklin, and Colonel J. Macklin is a military guy, of course, and heading the operation. They have a military base that's in a mountain where a lot of the military and their families and things like that are going to this military complex to stay safe when the warheads go off. Colonel Macklin, and Colonel Macklin is kind of a fractured being. He has an alter ego which is called the Shadow Soldier, which is basically an unthinking, very resourceful warrior. We have Swan, a very innocent young girl that actually has supernatural powers. We have Lord Alvin. Lord Alvin is an insane person that the mental institution that he was in survives the nuclear holocaust just in its area. It wasn't affected hard by the blasts and things like that. And there's quite a few people from that mental institution as well that survived. And Lord Alvin is the leader of this band of completely insane people. We have Roland, a young boy who is like a gamer to the point where he is like a brainwashed, sees himself as a knight. He sees himself as a knight, and he wants to be victorious and go on a quest and these kind of things. And then we have Sister Creep. Sister Creep is a homeless woman in New York that survives the blast. And she is a wonderful, wonderful character. But there you go. So looking at the characters in Swan Song, what do we notice? Well, they're very eclectic, right? And they're very resourceful and special, people. You don't survive a nuclear holocaust unless you have, resources and are ready to improvise and make things happen for yourself. So the kind of people, the kind of characters that we have in Swan Song are all actually on the surface of it and in the workings out of the book much, much more interesting than the individuals that are in The Stand. The individuals that are in The Stand could pretty much be in any novel. So, what is the content? Well, in The Stand, we have big ideas of, rebuilding and a lot of wonderful descriptions. There's a lot of interior life that is in this book of the different characters, and a lot of interacting of character between characters. The personalities are worked out very well, and this is very much a lot of this book. The actual content is people and their interactions, just like pretty much any other book. The setting is just what it is, and Stephen King does a very good job at it. This is one of the most loved Stephen King novels, and rightfully so, because it's really, really good. But there is, it's just that kind of thing where you're getting internal life, and you're getting society, community life between these survivors, and they are all pretty much your day-to-day run-of-the-mill people. In Swan Song, what is the content? Well, in Swan Song, the content is shocking and amazing, like almost horrifying uh, instance after horrifying instance. It is action packed, way more than The Stand is. There is so much more action and so many more things that happen. You know, I can't talk about The Stand and certain things that happen without talking about major plot points, because in between the major plot points, what happens is a lot of, you know, day-to-day life with these characters and their conversations and their interior life and things like that. And the action and the things that happen are major plot points in The Stand. Well, in Swan Song, there's action all the way through it, every single page. There's things happening, and I could talk about scene after scene after scene and not spoil this book, because action is just what it is, and it is very, very cool. So I wanted to kind of give a detail and just bring out one scene, one kind of thing from each book that has stuck with me over time. But when I'm thinking about it, it really is that the kind of scenes, the kind of actions that stick with you from The Stand, if I say those, I mean, they're major plot points. You know what I mean? They're major, major plot points. And I'm not trying to spoil, you know, major plot points or anything. But suffice it to say that when you meet Randall Flagg, our bad guy, and he releases the Trash Can Man from jail. Trash Can Man is in jail when the virus hits, and he's locked in jail. He's never going to get out. He's just going to starve in there, right? Well, the Man in Black, Randall Flagg, shows up and breaks him out of prison. It just grabs the key from one of the guards that's dead, you know? And when you meet him, it is very, very cool, but he's just doing exactly what I said that he's doing. What's cool about it is his mannerisms. What's cool is the things that he says and the ways that these characters interact. And that's what The Stand is all about, like that. In Swan Song, I'll give you a taste. This scene has stuck with me for years. Josh, the former wrestler, becomes the caregiver and the protector of Swan, who's alone. Swan is alone. She's the only one of her family that has survived. And Josh is alone. He's kind of a loner anyways. But Josh is taking care of Swan. And they walk into this supermarket. A supermarket that's not, you know, totally blown to pieces. And they're looking for canned goods. And they're looking for food, right? So they get in there. And they are confronted by Lord Alvin and his maniac little army, right? Lord Alvin has a little conversation with Josh, and it's very cool how it works out. And he goes, I'll give you, he actually has Swan, because they just walked into the grocery store and are looking around and stuff, and they got separated. So he actually has Swan. He goes, all right, well, you know, if you can get to the back of this supermarket, then you can have the girl back. Hands or feet? And Josh is like, what? Well, hands or feet? And he goes, hands. And he goes, okay. And they tie his hands together behind his back. So he's just tied with his arms together behind his back. And there is, you know, the army of maniacs all throughout this grocery store just to stop him from getting to the back of the grocery store by any means necessary. It's like a game to Lord Alvin and his posse, right? But they didn't know that Josh is a pro wrestler. So that scene is very, very cool. The characters are very, very cool and pretty wild. So I think that you can kind of get my take on it just from how I'm going through it, because Swan Song is infinitely more satisfying of a story to me personally than The Stand. I love Swan Song, and it is very, very wild, crazy, and horrific. The Stand is a great book, but it is more just an experience of going through this kind of extinction level event with a group of people that you can relate all to, and there's motivations within the group and things like that. But it's basically people interacting with people that could happen in any kind of book. Stephen King's a great story writer, and this is the setting that he put them in at this point. So I think that, The Stand does not have near as much unique ideas as Swan Song does. Swan Song stands alone as a very unique experience, and one of these things that you will remember scene after scene after scene, and how awesome it was. Very horrifying, and be ready for a nice dollop of supernatural happenings in both books, actually. But in Swan Song, everything is just more heightened and on a level. So I hope you enjoyed this book too, and leave me any kind of comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on The Stand or on Swan Song. They are some very cool post-apocalyptic horror. Catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.